That is right, ladies and gentlemen. I am back. I am the Punisher, and I am here with your Raw review for June 29th, 2009. I'm sorry I was gone for so long, but it's a very long story, and I'd rather not. Okay, let's get started. We began the show with Vince McMahon coming out and talking about Donald Trump and so on and so forth. He spoke of a 15 wrestler trade, which I'm not going to talk about. You can go to www.com to find out who was traded yourself if you want to. He also talked about how there were going to be, for the next few weeks, several guest hosts on Raw, which are just interim general managers running the show for that evening. And that night's host was going to be Dave Bautista. Blah, 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 lots of promos, blah, blah, blah. And the first match finally happens. We have a number one contenders tournament with Triple H versus MVP, the winner being Triple H via a pinfall. It's not a surprise. As much as MVP's star is rising, Triple H is still the top dog. So on and so forth. We have a WWE Unified Tag Team Championship match next with Edge and Chris Jericho defending their titles against Primo and Carlito Colon. Now, this was a match of very good athletic ability because you have four of the most talented superstars on the roster today showing what they can really do, with the winners being Edge and Christian retaining their Unified Tag Championship titles that they won at the Bash. More promos, and then we move on to The Miz versus John Cena, otherwise known as Boring and More Boring. John Cena versus The Miz go back and forth, blah, 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 blah. A very unnecessarily long match, and John Cena wins via submission. Legacy's in the back, and it is announced that the guest host for next week will be Ted DiBiase Sr., the $1 Million Man. So I'm excited for that because I haven't seen him in several years. Then we have a number one contenders match for the female title. It was Mickie James versus Beth Phoenix versus Rosa Mendez versus Kelly Kelly, with the winner being the top female on the roster, Mickie James, via pinfall. Moving on. And then we have Mid-Card Hell. Big Show versus Kofi Kingston, which came to a double count out when they were both thrown out of the ring and unable to beat the count, which caused the match to end in a draw. And then we have our main event. We have Randy Orton versus Raw acquisitions in the 15 superstar trade. First opponent is Evan Bourne. And Orton hit an RKO on Evan Bourne, and that is all there was to that. Next opponent is Jack Swagger, the All-American American. I hate Jack Swagger. I could not be more frustrated to see Jack Swagger on Raw, because I was liking the fact that I could avoid him, or only see an hour of him when I would watch ECW. But such is life. The second opponent is Jack Swagger, and out he comes. He gets on the mic and talks and blah 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 blah. He cuts a promo saying how he likes Orton and wanted to leave a lasting impression. And that was the end of that. There was no actual fight between the two of them, other than the fact that he got counted out on purpose because there was two heels going up against each other. Whatever. And the third opponent being the big man, Mark Henry. I'm not going to talk about him because you can make your own impressions by watching him. I don't know. Mark Henry actually winning the match against Randy Orton, which gives Mark Henry a face turn from the heel that he's been for so long. I don't know how Mark Henry is going to be able to work as a face without his sexual chocolate gimmick that he had back in the 90s, but we'll see what happens. And that is the end of Raw for Monday, June 29th, 2009. I was not pleased with this show. I'll tell you right off the bat, I wasn't pleased. I was bored. But we'll have to see what happens with the $1 Million Man being the guest host next week. I'm excited for that because I haven't seen him in a long time, and I was a big fan of him when I was a kid. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully they won't blow it as bad as they have been blowing the past several weeks worth of shows. And that is it for my Raw review. I will see you in a few hours, actually, with my ECW review. Alright, stay cool, and I will see you next time.